Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather Moulton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray, open it at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know I look perfectly plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German when he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Uncle Jack is so serious. Sometimes he is so very serious, I do not think he can be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanour is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks so bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety over that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come and visit us sometime. I think we could have a good influence over him in his prison. I know you certainly could. You know, German and geology and things of that nature influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I don't think I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favour of this modern mania of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to record the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that haven't happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for all the 3-volume novels that Maudie sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I do not like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it doesn't seem fair. And was the novel ever published?
Alas, no. Unfortunately, the manuscript was abandoned. I use the word as in lost or mislaid. Do your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
Oh, but I said dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
And Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
How are we this morning, Miss Prism? You are, I trust, well?
Oh, and Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think a walk through the gardens would do her much good, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I haven't mentioned anything about a headache.
Yes, dear Miss Prism, I know, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. In fact, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, that you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. Metaphorically, metaphor has gone from bees. Mr. Worthing has not yet returned from town, I suppose?
We don't expect him till Monday afternoon.
Yes, he usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim in life is enjoyment, unlike, by all accounts, that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria, my name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion, merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, even so.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a walk with you. I find I have a headache after all, and a stroll might do it good.
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prison, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee may admit it is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy. Horrid journal. Horrid journal.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany. Uncle Jack's brother? Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss, he seemed very much disappointed. But when I mentioned that you and Miss Prison were in the garden, he said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Worthing to come out here, and you better speak to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I am very frightened. I have never met any really wicked person before. I am so afraid he'll look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. And you, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked, Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If you are not, then you surely have been deceiving us in a most inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be bad and really being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, perhaps I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, although I'm sure it's rather pleasant.
Oh, it's much pleasanter being here with you, Cecily.
I can't think how you come to be here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
Oh, that's a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday. I have a business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh, well, I know, of course, how important it is to miss a business engagement. If anyone wants to retain any of the beauty of life, but I still think you should wait for Uncle Jack to return. He wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He has gone out to buy your outfit.
Well, I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste at all in neckties.
You won't require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Oh. Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday evening that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, or Australia.
Oh, well, the reports I have received of Australia, well, and the next world, are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I am not that. Which is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission if you choose.
Oh, I've no time this afternoon.
Would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
Oh, it's rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
Thank you. I feel better already.
You are looking rather worse.
Well, that is because I am hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me. I should have known that my one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole.
A marital meal?
I'd sooner have a pink one,
Why?
because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should talk to me like that. Miss Prison never says such things to me.
Well, then Miss Prison is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prison says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that every sensible man should want to be caught in.
Oh, I shouldn't like to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You're too much alone, dear Doctor. You should get married. A understand. A woman throw, never.
Believe me, dear Miss Prism, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously why the primitive church has not lasted to the present day. And you do not seem to realise, dear Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
Is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often, I've heard, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be relied upon. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women agree. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps you followed us to the school to...
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing?
We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure?
Dead.
Your brother Ernest dead.
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Dear Mr. Worthing, allow me to offer you my sincere condolence. You have at least the satisfaction of knowing you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had his many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No. He died abroad in Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to chills. Now, Mr. Worthing, will the interment take place here?
No. He seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris?
Yes.
Hardly speaks of any very serious state of mind at the last. Still, you would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion next Sunday? Fortunately, my sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, days of humiliation, and festal days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral, as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you could christen all right. I mean, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
Is there some particular infant in whom you were interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
It was not for any child, dear Doctor. I'm very fond of children. No, the fact is, I would like to be christened myself. this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
Yourself? But, Mr. Worthing, surely you have been christened already.
I didn't remember a thing about it.
Have you any grave doubts on the matter?
I certainly intend to have. But I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Oh, no, not at all. No, the sprinkling, and indeed the immersion of adults is entirely canonical practice.
Immersion?
Oh, you need have no concerns on that score. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what time would you like the ceremony performed?
Oh, I thought I might trot round about 5 if that would suit you.
Perfectly, yes. In fact, I have another pair of cases to carry out at that time. A set of twins, born in one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the carter, a most hard-working man.
But I don't see much fun in being christened alongside other babies. That would be childish. No, could I come around about 5:30, if that would be all right?
Oh, admirably, yes. Now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into this house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us to be bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
It seems to me to be a blessing of the most obvious kind.
Oh, Uncle Jack! I am glad to see you back. Oh, but what horrible clothes you've got on. Do go and change.
Cecily!
Oh, my child.
Uncle Jack, what is the matter? Do look happy. You look as if you've got a toothache. And I've got the most wonderful surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother, Earnest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
That's nonsense. I don't have a brother.
Oh, Uncle Jack, don't say that. However badly he might have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. And you couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I will ask him to come out. And you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
After we have all resigned ourselves to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what any of this could mean. That's absolutely absurd. Good heavens!
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've caused, and I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think he's coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Oh, Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. And Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, who goes to visit so often. And there must be good in someone who leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
He's been talking to you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he told me all about Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or anyone else. It's enough to drive anyone perfectly frantic.
Well, of course, I admit the faults were all on my side. But I must say, I think Brother John's coldness towards me is peculiarly painful, especially considering this is the first time I've come down here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Oh. Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Oh. This is the last time I shall ever do it.
It is pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation between brothers? I think we might leave the two gentlemen alone now.
Cecily will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prison. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You've done a beautiful action today, my son.
We mustn't be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
Out, you young scoundrel! You must get out of this place at once. I don't allow Bunbury here.
I've put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours. I suppose that's all right, sir.
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, 2 hat boxes, a dress case, and a large luncheon basket.
I can't stay more than a week this time, I'm afraid.
Merriman, call the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Frightful lie you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
Well, I don't hear anybody calling me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
Oh, my duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my amusements in the smallest
Yes,
way.
I can quite understand that.
Cecily is a darling.
I won't have you talk with Miss Cardew in that way. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It's absurd to be mourning for a man who's actually staying with you in your house for a whole week as your guest.
Certainly not staying with me for a whole week. My guest or anything else. You've got to leave by the 4:05 train.
Well, I certainly shan't leave whilst you are still in mourning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you should stay with me, I should hope. I should think it would be very unfriendly of you if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you're not too long about it. I never saw anyone take so long to dress and such little result.
Well, at least that's not being always overdressed as you are.
If occasionally I am a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous.
Yes.
Your conduct an outrage.
Yes.
And your presence in my garden, absolutely absurd. However, you will catch the 4:05 train, and I hope you have a jolly nice journey back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you yet.
I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, that is everything. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. There she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
Well, he's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
Then we've got to part.
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It's always painful to part from one whom one has only just been introduced. The absence of old friends one can endure with absolute equanimity. But being parted from one whom one has only just been introduced, it's almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, you should not be offended if I state quite openly and frankly that you seem to me in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. And if you allow me, I will copy your remarks with my diary.
Oh, do you really keep a diary? You may have a look. May I?
Oh no, you see it is merely a record of a young girl's thoughts and impressions, and subsequently made for publication. When it appears in volume form, I do hope you'll order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection, and quite ready for more. You might go on. Don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily. Ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you, wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
Oh, I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is at the door, sir, still?
Tell her to come round at the same hour next week.
Yes, sir. Certainly, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he noticed staying on at the same hour next week.
Oh, I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anybody but you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy. Of course. Why, we've been engaged for almost 3 months.
For almost 3 months.
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how exactly did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack mentioned to me that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between Miss Prism and I, and a man who is much talked about, who's very attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On February the 14th last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to settle the matter, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear tree here. The next day, I bought this ring in your name. And here is the bangle, the true love's knot I promised you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Oh yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a bad life. And here is the box in which I keep all of your letters.
My letters. But my dear sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that. I remember only too well I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week and sometimes often.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh no, they would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I called off our engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that still now I can't read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course, on the 22nd of March. You can read the entry if you like. Today I called off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why, Cecily? Oh, what had I done? I had done nothing, I'm sure. I'm greatly distressed to hear you broke off our engagement, particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it wouldn't have been a very serious engagement unless it had been called off at least once now, would it? I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
I hope your hair is natural for shining, is it?
Yes, darling. With a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
And you'll never call off our engagement again?
I don't think I could call it off now I've actually met you. Besides, there is the matter of your name.
Yes, of course.
You can't laugh at me, darling, but it's always been a girlish dream of mine to marry someone with the name of Earnest. The name seems to inspire absolute confidence. I've always pitied a woman whose husband's name isn't Earnest.
But my dear sweet child, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name were anything other than Earnest?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Oh, I don't like Algernon.
My darling child, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It's not at all a bad name. It's rather an aristocratic name. Half the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. Seriously, if my name were Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character. But I do not think I could give you my undivided attention.
Your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly versed in all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on the most important christening. On most important business.
Oh?
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Seeing as we've been engaged since February the 14th, and I only met you today for the first time, I think it's rather hard you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I love his hair so much. I must note his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called on Mr. Worthing. On important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
No, miss. Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Show Miss Fairfax out here. Uncle Jack is sure to be back soon. And you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax, probably one of the good old ladies involved in Uncle Jack's philanthropic work in London. I do not like ladies who are involved in philanthropic work. It is so very forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much. After we've known each other such a comparatively short amount of time. Pray, do sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
Of course.
And you opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose.
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I am rather fond of being looked at.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also.
No, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed?
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh. It is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I am unsure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, dear Cecily. I have liked you since I first met you. But I am bound to state that now I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were a little older than you seem, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray do. I always feel that if someone has something unpleasant to say, we should be quite candid about it.
well, to speak with perfect candour, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honour. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn, but did you say Ernest?
Yes,
It is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm afraid to say they have not been on good terms for a very long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was beginning to grow almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I am going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact in the next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post by Saturday at the latest.
Dearest Gwendolyn, you must be under some misconception. Wait, Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, but he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is of any disappointment to you, but I am afraid I have the prior claim.
Who
at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever an entanglement my dear boy's put himself into, I will never approach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you! This is no time for wearing a shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. Our social spheres have obviously been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Thank you.
Many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, a great many. One of the hilltops quite close. One can see almost 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in London.
Quite a well-kept garden, this is, Miss Cardew.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common here as people are in London.
I cannot understand how anybody manages to exist in the country. If anybody who is anybody does, the country always bores me to death.
That is what they call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering from it quite severely at the moment. It is almost an epidemic, I'm told. Tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
Save my poor, sweet, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl. There are no lengths to which I would not go.
The moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you've many other calls of a similar nature to make in the neighbourhood.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily? Of course not. Whatever could have put that idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding. The gentleman whose arm is currently around your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack! Oh!
Here is Ernest.
Oh, my own love.
A moment, please. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To which young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
No, of course not. What could have put such a silly idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I felt there must be some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon? Is your name really Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh,
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny many things if I liked. But yes, my name is John. It has been John for years.
it seems a gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet, wronged Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not? There is just one question I'd like to be able to put to my garden. An admirable idea. There is just one question, Mr. Worthing, I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Earnest, so it is of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life I have ever been reduced to such a painful position. And I must say I am quite inexperienced at doing anything of the kind. But I may tell you quite frankly, I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother in my whole life, and I have not the smallest intention of having any brother of any kind in the future.
No brother at all?
None.
Have you never a brother of any kind?
Not even of any kind.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It isn't a very pleasant position for a young lady to find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly dare venture to come after us there.
Yes, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose?
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is too. The most wonderful Bunbury I ever had in my life.
Well, you have no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
That's absurd. One has a right to Bunbury wherever one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious bunburyist? Good heavens!
Well, one must be serious about something in life if you are to have any amusement. I happen to be serious about Bunburying. What on earth you are serious about, I have no idea. About everything, I should suppose. What an absolutely trivial nature you have.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the countryside as often as you used to, dear Algy, and not a bad thing too.
Your brother's a little off colour too, isn't he, Jack? You shan't be able to disappear up to town quite as often as your wicked custom was. And not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew,
No.
you're taking in a sweet innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she's my ward.
Well, I can see no possible excuse at all for your taking in a brilliant, clever, a thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Oh, there's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't think there's much chance, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that's certainly no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that. And then merely at dinner parties.
How you can sit there calmly eating muffins when we're in this horrible trouble, I can't quite make out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can hardly eat muffins in an agitated manner, but the butter might get on my heart.
I say it's perfectly heartless you eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the moment, I'm unhappy, so I'm eating muffins. And besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, that's no reason to eat them all in that greedy way.
I wish you'd have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Oh, good heavens. I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
You have just said that it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. It's a very different thing.
Well, that may be, but the muffins are the same.
Algy, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't ask me to go without having some dinner first. Absurd. I never go anywhere without my dinner. Nobody ever does, except vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I have just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 6:15 under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I myself made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble this morning to be christened, and I naturally will take the name of Earnest. Gwendolen would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest. It's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I want to. There's no evidence that I've ever been christened at all by anybody. I think it most probable I never was, and so does Dr. Chasuble. You, it's entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I have not been christened for years.
But you have been christened, that is the important thing.
Quite so. So I know that my constitution can take it. If you're not quite so sure about your ever having been christened, I must say I think it's rather dangerous you're embarking upon it now. It might make you rather unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone closely connected with you was very nearly carried off in Paris this week from a severe chill.
Ah, but you yourself said a severe chill is not hereditary.
Well, it used to be, but I dare say it is now. I mean, science is always making such wonderful advances in things. Jack, you're at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There are only 2 left. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Why on earth, then, do you allow tea cake to be served up in your house to your guests? What extraordinary ideas of hospitality you have.
Algernon, I've already told you to go. Why don't you go? I don't want you here.
Well, I haven't quite finished my tea yet. Besides, there's still 1 muffin left.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show they have at least some sense of shame left.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us. What effrontery!
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly. It is the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Oh, Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
That seems like a satisfactory answer, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I can't, but it does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have the opportunity of coming to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts on the subject, but I intend to crush them. Now is not the time for German scepticism. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. But which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Couldn't we both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I almost always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
For me, you are willing to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
Oh, it is absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of courage that we women know nothing about.
darling.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Well, heaven, no! What is the meaning of this?
Merely that Mr. Worthing and I are engaged to be married, Mamma.
Come here and sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, I followed immediately my luggage train. Her poor father is fortunately under the impression that she is attending an unusually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme. I do not propose to undeceive him. I have never undeceived him on any matter. I would consider it improper. But you, sir, must understand clearly that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this matter, as indeed on all matters, I am firm.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn and Brad.
You are no such thing, sir. And as for Algernon... Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask if this is the house in which your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no, Bunbury isn't here. Bunbury is elsewhere at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did he die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. Poor Bunbury passed away this afternoon.
What did he die of?
He was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I wasn't aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If he was, then he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean to say that poor Bunbury was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live any longer. And so Bunbury had to die.
He seems to have had very great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. However, I am glad that at long last he made up his mind on some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. Well, now that we've got rid of Mr. Bunbury at last, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew is holding in a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, there must be something unusually exciting in the air in this part of Hertfordshire. The number of engagements which occur seems to me to be considerably above the proper average laid down for our guidance by statistics. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not come amiss. May I ask, Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I asked merely for information. Until yesterday I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin is a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, 5-share NB.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. Street addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what guarantee do I have of their authenticity?
I have preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
No, I have known many strange errors in that publication.
Oh. Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby. A firm of the very highest reputation in their profession. Indeed, I'm told that one of Mr. Markby's is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
That's extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you may be extremely pleased to hear, Miss Cardew's certificates of birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
Ah, a life crowded with incident, I see. But perhaps rather too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favour of premature experiences. Come, my dear, the time approaches for our departure. We have a moment to lose. Mr. Worthing, I suppose I had better ask as a matter of form whether Miss fortune?
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all, Lady Bracknell. Goodbye. So pleased to have seen you.
One moment. £130,000? In the funds? Oh, well, actually, now that I come to look at her, Miss Cardew seems a most attractive young lady. Of course, few girls today have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret, in an age of surfaces. Come here, sweet child. Oh, yes, you are a pretty child. Your dress is sad, and your hair is almost as nature might have intended it, but we can soon alter that. A really experienced French maid can produce a marvellous result in a short space of time. I once recommended one to the young Lady Lancing, and within 3 months, her own husband didn't know how.
And within 6 months, nobody knew her.
Trying to turn around there, child. No, side views, what I want. And, just as I thought, there are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The two main weaknesses of our age are its lack of principle and its lack of profile. Chin a little higher, my dear. Style depends largely on how the chin is worn, and at the moment it's worn very high. Oh yes, just as I thought. Algernon, there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, prettiest, dearest girl in the whole world. And I don't give tuppence for social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. My dear sweet child, you must of course understand that Algernon has nothing to depend upon except his debts. Nor do I approve of mercenary marriages. However, when I married Lord Bracknell, I had no personal fortune of my own whatsoever. And yet, I never dreamt for a moment of letting that stand in my way. So, I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
You may kiss me, Cecily.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
And you may address me as Aunt Augusta from now on.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The wedding, I think, should take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I am not in favour of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out about each other's character before marriage. Never advise me.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. And that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an eminently, one might say, ostentatiously suitable young man. He has nothing, but looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew. But the fact is, I don't approve of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew, Algernon? Impossible, he's an Oxonian.
There can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on a very important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I have just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet, Brut 89, while I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin. What makes his conduct all the more heartless is he knew perfectly well from the first that I have had no brother. I've never had a brother, and I had not the smallest intention of having a brother in the future. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Wood, after careful consideration, I've decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct towards you.
That is extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. However, my decision on the subject is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you?
Well, I am really only 18, but I always admit to 20 at evening parties.
You're quite right to make some small adjustment. No woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculated. So, 18. are admitted to 20 at evening parties. Well, in that case, you will soon be coming of age and will be free from the restraints of tutelage. So your guardian's consent is not a matter of any great importance, after all.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell. But I think it's only fair to tell you that, according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not become legally of age until she's 35.
Oh, but I don't see why that's very serious. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the highest birth who've been 35 of their own volition for years and years. Lady Darlington, to my certain knowledge, has been 35 ever since she attained the age of 40, which is now many, many years ago. I see no reason why our own dear Cecily shouldn't be even more attractive at that age than she is now. There will, of course, be a considerable accumulation of property.
Algy, could you love me till I was quit me till I was 35?
Well, of course I could, Cecily.
Yes.
You know I could.
I felt it instinctively. I can't wait for that time. I hate waiting for people, even for 5 minutes. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I expect punctuality in others. Waiting, even to be married, is quite out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Algy.
Oh, Mr. Worthing. Dear Mr. Worthing, since Miss Cardew thinks positively that she cannot wait till she's 35, a statement which I'm bound to say indicates a somewhat impatient nature. May I suggest you reconsider your decision?
Dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. As soon as you consent to my marriage to Gwendolyn, I must most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
But you must understand that what you suggest is out of the question.
The passionate celibacy is all that any of us have to look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, my dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to adverse comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
Christening? Rather premature, sir.
Both of the gentlemen have expressed their desire for immediate baptism.
Baptism at their age? The idea is grotesque and irreligious. I will not hear of it. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. Lord Bracknell will be most annoyed if he knew this is the way you're spending your time and your money.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that as things are now, Dr. Chasuble, it would be of much practical value to either of us.
I'm grieved to hear you say that, Mr. Worthing. It savours of the heretical sentiments of the Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church.
Indeed, I've just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell,
I hear you mention a Miss Prism.
Yes, I'm just on my way to see her.
Pray allow me to detain you for 1 moment. This matter may prove to be of vital importance to myself and Lord Bracknell. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and a very picture of respectability.
Obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
Despite what I've just heard, I must see her immediately. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism. Where is that baby? 32 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 102 Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator containing a baby of the male sex. You never returned. Several weeks later, the perambulator found by the police standing on its own in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of unusually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prison! Where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day that you mention, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the work of fiction I'd written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prison, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I have to return to my rooms for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I hardly need to tell you that in families of high importance, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They're not hardly considered a thing.
Uncle Jackson's strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This is a most unpleasant noise. It sounds as if you were having an argument. I dislike arguments of all kinds. They're always vulgar and often convincing.
Just stop now.
Oh, I wish you would reach some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prison, is this the handbag? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends upon your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes. Here is the injury it received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Here is the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at Leamington. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in a mood of extravagance I had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It's been a great inconvenience have been without it all of these years.
Miss Prison, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother.
I am unmarried.
Unmarried? Oh, I do not deny that is a serious blow. But after all, who has the right to cast a stone at one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who will tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my dear late sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
How is that a brother? Because I have a brother of after all, I always knew I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have doubted that I had a brother? Oh! Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prison, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Alfie, you young scoundrel. You'll have to treat me with more respect in the future. You've never behaved to me like a brother in your whole life.
Well, not till today, old boy. But you must admit, I was rather out of practice.
My own? But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Good heavens, I'd quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject is quite irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen.
The question must be settled at once, Aunt Augusta, a moment. The time has placed me in the bag. Had I been christened already?
Every luxury that might provide, including christening, has been lavished on you by your fond and devoting parents.
And I had been christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Well, being the eldest son, you were naturally named after your father.
Yes. And my father's Christian name was?
I cannot at the moment recall a gentleman's name, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in his later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and that sort of thing.
Actually, can you not recall the name of our father?
My dear boy, he died before I was a year old. We were never even on speaking terms.
His name would appear in the army list of the period, would it not, Aunt Augusta?
Well, the general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic arrangements, but yes, his name would appear in any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years are here. These delightful records should have been my constant study. Generals. Malum, Maxburn, Magsley. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Mixby, Moncrief, Lieutenant 1840, Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General, General 1869, Christian names. Earnest, John. Gwendolen, I always told you my name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, it naturally is.
Oh,
Earnest.
Yes, I remember now. The gentleman's Christian name was Earnest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking the name.
Ernest, my own Ernest. I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolen, it is a terrible thing when a man finds out quite suddenly that his whole life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Will you forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
My own darling.
Letitia!
Frederick, at last! At last.
Gwendolen, at last. Oh.
My nephew. I see you're displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.